Namaste and welcome. I am Pratim Ranjan Bose and you are watching my podcast, Perspective. In this episode, I'll discuss Bangladesh. It's hot summer and Bangladesh is getting extra hot. These are largely invited by the Yunus administration and partly due to external events. For reminder, the Sheikh Hasina government was ousted from power on August 5, 2024. Three factors contributed to the groundswell against her. A. Economic distress since 2022 following the decade-long boom. B. Democratic backsliding. She was elected through two opposition-less elections and one rigged election. And C. The allegation of lack of political freedom and human rights violations. About the last one, I would like to remind you that Hasina came to power in January 2009 when Bangladesh was in FATF grey list for terror or terror-related activities. FATF stands for Financial Action Task Force. It, being on the grey list means, in the FATF list means there will be restriction on capital flow of investments, the transactions, etc. Pakistan was also in the FATF grey list. The Bangladesh was removed from FATF list in January, February 2014, probably February or March 2014. However, in 2016, the country was rocked by its worst terror attack in history at the Holy Artisan Bakery in Dhaka, where a host of foreigners died. In the language of terror and terror activities, Holy Artisan Bakery attack is something equivalent to Kuta bombing in Bali in Indonesia, or say the parliament attack, which was, of course, of a much bigger scale, Mumbai attack, etc. So these had suddenly put Bangladesh far higher on the terror risk profile. I'm referring this forgotten piece of history to underscore that Hasina faced very different challenges from the word go. She had to, tackling terror was a top priority of her government. Her records in human rights should be measured from the perspective of those ground realities. The Yunus administration did not have such challenges, but it surely revived the fear of resurgence of terror, which I will touch upon in due course. Let me first start with the economic performance or the state of the economy in Bangladesh as we see it after 9 months stay of the interim government under Dr. Muhammad Yunus. To put it in a single sentence, the economy is in tatters. The cycle of disruption since July 2024, revenge politics on businessmen, the topmost industrialist of the country is in jail. Many others are in exile, businesses overtaken or whatever. When you go after businessmen in any country, however, and whatever you blame on businessmen, if you go after them, you are bound to suffer. In India, we saw that after the Janata government came to power in 1977. As they went after the business, India entered into, the growth was generally low in those days, but the cost was very heavy on the economy. Now, all these indicate lack of focus on economy. Ideally, the interim government should have focused on the economy from the word go, because that wouldn't have required much, political distractions. There was a clear case for that, and there was a public consensus that they should bring the economy in order. They did not. They say that they have done a lot, but these are basically roughshod things or very preliminary things. And all these are hurting them back now and will hurt further as in the due course. Bangladesh, we all know that Bangladesh created global headlines for the exponential growth for more than a decade. Now, those days are gone, as in 2025, the growth is expected to be as low as in the COVID year of 2020. The impact of sluggish growth is felt on the economy. Dhaka streets are, this has become an affair, state of affair for last 9 months. The government has been very unclear as to how many industries have closed down. And we get unofficial figures or semi-official figures, and the numbers are alarming. There had been often, we see spades, there had been many violences in industries, mind you, in the first few months after they came to power. And right at this moment, Dhaka streets are flooded with protests from different, the workers of different industrial clusters. Understandably, and one data that I recently saw is that the unemployment has gone up, the highest in a decade or something like that. But let me once again tell you, you should always take Bangladeshi data with a pinch of, not with a pinch, but with quite a spoonful of salt. Particularly data like employment, inflation, etc. These are heavily, these data are not to be reliable. Only we should see the trends. That's all. There is no point in discussing the percentage. I think the unemployment rate that they have shown is below 5%. Now, normally below 5% unemployment rate is nothing. But actually, I've been tracking Bangladesh for many years now, and I can assure that the actual rate will be much higher. And that has always been the case. Now, so as I said, that Yunus administration should have focused on the economy, and they did not. IMF prescribed reforms like transparency in foreign exchange. And if we just remember the lot of, the kind of shows that the administration puts up, it really doesn't have an idea. It doesn't, want to take the right steps. It was taking revenge. And when the IMF, whatever you say, the propaganda against or for IMF, I'm not getting into that. But let us first understand that the Indian reforms was also, to some extent, dictated by IMF. And it worked well. We had a balance of payment crisis back in 1990 and 1990, 91, etc. And we took one bailout package and we are out. We are a big economy today. So it is wrong to say that IMF, this particular propaganda that about IMF, against IMF reforms is wrong. So the IMF has been prescribing market reforms, and Bangladesh was trying to resist that. There was a serious back and forth on the release of the IMF loan that was approved during Hasina's period, and it is coming in tranches, and the last tranche, I think it is being released this month or next month. And before that, for a month or two, we saw a lot of slugfest in where important people in charge of things are saying that they can do without IMF reforms, without IMF money, and etc. These all are very kind of I should say these are political exercises. This suits politicians, but not technocrats. This doesn't. We all know why IMF bailout is necessary. Once the IMF clears you, once you go through those reforms, your credit rating increases, and your whole, whether your foreign exchange or everything will be stabilized. And there were no core reasons to just say that the economy has improved. If we look at the trends, like say forex reserve. Now, before Hasina left, the forex reserve started recovering, and the trend continued. I mean, it went down and then it recovered and it sustained at that level. If we see the inflation scenario actually worsened during the Yunus period. Then it came down slightly in the Eid, February, March. But again, during Hasina's period, also we will see the similar dip during management during the Eid period. So these are done through some roughshod arrangements. Like this year, they forced the potato, farmers to release the potato stock from the cold storages. Now that crashed the potato prices in the market, but at a cost, at a serious cost. Farmers go by the last year's prices and as a benchmark to sow the for the farming in the next season. So we don't know how it is going to impact them. It is easy to just force people to sell and bring down prices, and market interventions do not of this nature. Structural interventions are good, but market interventions with a short-term outlook doesn't really help. It rather destroys the market confidence. And Bangladesh doesn't have data. See, there is no way to know what is how is the economy doing. Like you don't get the normal data like the consumer confidence, etc. Even they say the PMI index, only one chamber has recently launched, but it is not one of the highest notch PMI indexes. So these are the kind of independent data you are not getting, and the official data you get with a lot of lag effect, which also leaves a scope for a lot of what I say is kind of redoing, to put it in far more plainer terms, some hera-fairy in data. So these are Bangladesh data are a serious question. It is not advisable to simply follow this country by data. It is better to just take the trends and match it your ground experience, and then draw some understanding. So the understanding has to be more political economic in nature. And so the point is that whether there is any scope for revival of Bangladeshi economy, I don't see much. ADB, Asian Development Bank, expects Bangladesh to do better in 2026, but that is probably that's too premature to expect. There are a couple of reasons. First point is, unless the political situation in Bangladesh stabilizes, Bangladesh has been an unstable country for the last 9 months. And unless the political situation in Bangladesh stabilizes, things are not going to improve. And I don't see, even if a new government comes in, things are not going to improve dramatically, the situation. So let's take a view of where it had gone. What are the basic risk factors of this economy? See, Bangladesh economy is highly interlinked with India, highly dependent on India. This is the dependence was less when it was a smaller economy. The last decade of the growth in Hasina's period made it even more dependent. Because when you are, you just, in these years, industrial profile has also increased. So whatever Bangladesh does, it has to, it is an import dependent country, and it has to depend on Indian imports. If it doesn't, it's Bangladesh's loss, because we are just next door neighbors. The second factor is very big. India is a big player in the food market. Now, Hasina government entered into certain understandings with India. I think it was in 2022 to ensure food security. So did United Arab Emirates had also entered into a pact. Many of the free trade pacts nowadays we are signing. In fact, these foreign countries are very keen on entering into a pact on food supplies with India. Because say for example, take rice, wheat, etc. So India matters there. Now it can matter either way, assuming you are not taking from India. That is, even if you don't take it from India, India is a factor because India can dictate prices. So, and if you have an agreement with India to get supplies, then you are safe, and Bangladesh was safe during the COVID period. Not only Bangladesh. We just went for every neighbor, like the vaccine. We gave food to Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, to all the countries we thought they are friendly to us. So this is a big assurance that Hasina secured from India. And right at this moment, the political situation is too bad. Now, ever since this government has come in, officially they said that we want good relations with India, but politically they took a completely opposite stance. In fact, they went on a coalition course with India. It has been, I should say, it is extremely naive to issue security threats against India or to question India's sovereignty over its Northeast India. These are very naive and very aggressive plays, and pitting Pakistan in, everyone knows that India-Pakistan enmity. So if you are looking for friendship with India, you should not, try to put Pakistan in between. And that is exactly what they did. This like creating trouble for India. And it went to the extent where Bangladesh has actually created some security threats. And these are coming right from Dr. Yunus. I mean, as Dr. Yunus, a repeated reference of Seven Sisters. See, Bangladesh can jolly well for more than 20, 25 years, India has been following a very interesting tradition. It allowed Bangladesh to export its commodities to Northeast, and also allowed Bangladesh to impose import restrictions from Northeast. This was going on. And we just allowed Bangladesh to have a captive market in India's Northeast, which has a population of roughly 4.5 crores. Not small. If you look at it in European standard or American standard, it's pretty big. So that went on. It's twice the size, or 2.5 times the size of Nepal. So, but when you are doing this, so in exchange, Bangladesh, during Hasina's period, Bangladesh ensured India's security. India and Bangladesh joined hands in many projects and many initiatives. So Bangladesh made India a stakeholder in its growth story. The approach of Yunus government has been completely different. It was confrontational. So they did not invite India into, or they did not make India their prime anchor in their growth agenda. And they were kind of inviting the Chinese to come and market goods in Northeast. Now, that is frivolous, that is provocative. I'm not talking about the Facebook threads, the Facebook posts, even by the ministers of this government. It is, and those people who are linked to this government, their political arm, NCP, thrives on anti-India politics. So it is not, it did not want a good relation with India, which is important for their economic stability. The result is that India stopped issuing visas from the beginning. India maintained, and it put shutters on the border, so to ensure it was paying very. The border security was tightened, and we were just focusing on the security part. We wanted that India, through its formal diplomatic and from the ex-Ministry of External Affairs and through military diplomacy, both it was told to Bangladesh that India wants to deal with an elected government, and we did not disturb the trade. This is irrespective of many provocations and irrespective of stoppage of many projects, Indian projects. And very serious anti-India rhetoric from the government side, or people associated with the government, or the politics that is directly placed by the government. So this went on for 8 months. India stood by, supply of essentials whenever those were in the early days. Bangladesh was when the food inflation was shooting at 14% or 15%, and India always stood by. India sent the essentials whenever Bangladesh wanted it. The problem is that they did not change their politics, and in 2000 and in April, India started withdrawing the concessions that it granted to Bangladesh. Number one went the transshipment facility. Bangladesh went on. This political narrative was built that India has been taking out advantages from Bangladesh. The reality proved different. Their export through India's airports was increasing exponentially because of efficiency of the Indian logistics. So India stopped that facility. It was offered since 2020, the COVID year. Then Bangladesh should have stopped there. Bangladesh should have understood, but Bangladesh did not. They imposed some restrictions, port restrictions on imports from India, particularly some yarn or cotton yarn and etc. So port restrictions means a non-tariff measure. And this month, just a week ago, India withdrew the concessions. Now, Northeast, to export to India's Northeast, they have to take the consignment through Eastern Indian Port of Kolkata. So, which means that their exports to Northeast will be unviable. The Bangladesh exports goods. India is the seventh largest export market of Bangladesh. As in 2024, it was the seventh largest, and the export volume, I think, once it went up to $2 billion, but was last year it was somewhere around 1.5 or so billion dollars, and naturally they have larger export basket is their ready-made garments, and it was growing very fast. It was the first growing market. So the port restrictions have come, and Bangladesh has to sacrifice a lot of market gains in India, because the port restrictions will simply make its supply chain costlier. From Indian perspective, India will surely be losing money. India invested huge amounts of money in creating the trade infrastructure across the borders. Very modern terminals have been put out in West Bengal, 2 in West Bengal, then 2 in Tripura, and so on. So a lot of investment has gone into a lot of road making, etc., etc. But India decided to absorb the cost, and if Bangladesh goes for whatever Bangladesh decides, let it go. So I believe it's now in the coalition, completely open coalition, and India will. India is no mood to relent, because we are absorbing the losses. We have decided. It's a call. Bangladesh hasn't initiated any retaliatory measure as of now, but given their politics, anything can happen anytime, and lets them decide what they would love to do. But in the meantime, so as I said, that Bangladesh's economy's first is its economic risk profile has gone up, and India doesn't have any liability or obligation to stand by it in demand when it comes to food, because they have denied the ground rules. Meanwhile, the bigger Bangladesh has done more politics in this 9 months, the Yunus administration, and they have barely paid attention to the bigger things in the world that's happening. We all are busy with these reciprocal tariffs and etc. trade deals, but so far as I track, I don't see much of the reflection of this debate in Bangladesh. There is practically nothing. All discussion is on who is going on this politics. And now see just of late, US has imposed 5% tax on remittance and outbound remittance. Now, remittance is the second largest foreign exchange earner for Bangladesh after ready-made garments. So this is going to hit them. But the real hit is not that. The reciprocal tariffs, and actually the US used, we all know that US used reciprocal tariffs as a gambit to force countries to lower tariffs and buy things from USA, etc. Now, they did not distinguish between less developed and more developed or whatever, friends and foes alike. So something bigger, what is happening is across the world, there is a trade liberalization happening actually. Now, Bangladesh is completely unaware of that. Last I heard is that they offered concessional tariff to 100 import items from Bangladesh. Fair enough. But Bangladesh enjoys concessional tariff import duty. India offers Bangladesh zero duty import opportunity. I mean, from Bangladesh, they can export to India without any import tariff. So there was a concessional duty. And when they are offering concessions to any other country, Bangladesh doesn't offer India any concession. So now when Bangladesh will be offering concessions to USA or any other country, the other country, trade partners, India is the second largest trade partner of Bangladesh, remember, and they will definitely ask for those concessions, and that is a global norm that is happening. So countries are very careful in in reducing tariffs. That is exactly the lot of homework is going on. If some country just opens its pass to one country, the other countries are not going to sit idle. They will ask for equal and proportionate share of the good. So that is exactly going to happen. I don't. I hope that Bangladesh has done some homework, but at least in the media or through the official press conferences or whatever releases, I'm not getting any reflection of what is happening in Bangladesh with how seriously they are thinking. But actually, if you look at it from geoeconomics, geopolitics, they are in very serious situation. They imposed they, as I said, that they were resisting the accept the IMF prescription for reforms, and then they accepted. They allowed to bring transparency in foreign exchange pricing, and going forward, I'm sure we are going to see serious troubles in these areas. So Bangladesh's economy is, in my understanding, the risk profile has only gone up from the Hasina days. Now, that is about economy. So let me go into the more exciting things that's happening there on political front. Politically, Bangladesh is in a bind now. After 9 months, another Iraq situation has come, and they invited it. It has come through two ways. One, as early as in this government has taken over assumed power in August, and as early as in September, there was a draft proposal for banning Awami League. By amending a piece of Anti-Terror Act. Awami League is the party of Sheikh Hasina, and that is the largest party. They have a loyal voter base of anywhere between 3 to 4 crores. Now, that then in December, they went for this. In November, US election results came out, and in December, the Yunus administration, through its political arm, that is the so-called quote-unquote students, launched an agitation for proclamation of revolution. Now that agitation too, then they withdrew. The army was against it, and I mean, the moment you go for such proclamations, you are going to end up in very serious problems, starting from the diplomatic recognitions. So anyway, then they withdrew from that. Finally, this month, they suddenly, it was clearly their created agitation. The NCP, the students formed a party, and that party is completely, the leaders are completely unpopular. All the student leaders, in 9 months, they have lost popularity. There are charges of corruptions. There are, there is practically nothing left. No electoral future for this party if, in case of any free and fair, free and fair competition. But this party has, with the support of a section of Islamists, they just launched a protest, and in 2 days, the government they demanded the ban on Awami League, and the government banned down. It was banned by a very, legally the ban can be challenged. There are many reasons, because you created a piece of act which will and any piece of act should act in a progressive manner, meaning from that day it should be applicable. Now, Awami League was banned as a terrorist organization, quote unquote, and it not banned, its political activities are banned. So legally there is a difference. And it was done when Awami League was practically absent from the political social space of Bangladesh for 9 months. Loads of their MPs, I think some 37 ministers and 44 MPs, something like that, are jailed. The rest are in India and elsewhere in the world. Not only MPs and ministers, many leaders are out of Bangladesh. So that party barely was active, barely above ground in last 9 months, and you are banning them as a terrorist organization. If for their past activities, then that is very contradictory to law, and they were their activities were banned under the anti-terror. So that is a controversial. But then I don't want to look into the legal aspect of Bangladesh. This is a banana republic. This is a pure and simple banana republic where people come and just issue pieces of law, and then people are bailed out, acquitted out of cases which were there for even before Hasina's period. You just create a narrative and get everything is changed. You had a liberation suddenly one day. You say that no, this is not a liberation. That one was not a liberation. So it's a very, very difficult situation. It's a banana republic. Whosoever in power, there will always be, they are divided. The society is divided, and whichever side gets gets the power, they will impose their sets of rules. I mean, having tracked this country for nearly 2 decades, this is my understanding. This is not going to be corrected. And that is where I differ with this, flowery, things that is thrown by the West in the name of democracy and etc. I don't think that every society, every rule is applicable to every society. The Chinese, the South are very happy without the democracy. So are Vietnamese. The Southeast Asia barely has a democracy. These are shadow democracies, that they are very good economies and thriving economies. And America's friend Singapore is no democracy, by the way. So I am just, the West throws these things to the world to pursue their own agenda. Because all economies and all countries, all societies are not same. Let's put it in a very positive manner. So back to the topic, that politically the Awami League is banned, so that some 3 to 4 crore people are deprived of their basic political freedom. And someone will say, and this is to ensure, create a space for this government's party called King's Party, the NCP, and some other forces, the Islamists and etc., who have been supporting this government from the beginning. The party, the Awami League's rival BNP, which was supposed to come in power, they stuck to the the situation was created, and whichever way they supported this ban, and I feel that they are going to suffer a big time for this decision going forward. There are definite reasons why they will suffer, because these people don't want them also either. What they are doing is re-implementing a 2007 formula of -2, known as -2, where they wanted to throw out, the army wanted to throw out both the top political leaders out and create something new. This is very fashion, So this is Bangladesh. This is where everyone talks of reforms just to suit his or her own agendas. That's it. That is what they mean by reforms. To us, or some people or more people in the world, reforms means a continuous process of development. But that consistency you won't get in Bangladesh. It will always be from one side to another. And that is how it went for last 50 years. Every 10, 15 years, it moved from one direction, one extreme to the other extreme. So this is, once again, is the case. Now, that talks about, as I said in the beginning, that there were three main allegations, and that talks about the political freedom, democratic status of democracy in Bangladesh. Now, something more serious has happened in the meantime. The Yunus government clearly had its external support was with the Democrats in US. Now, Democrats lost election in November 2024, and they were anchorless for some time. And suddenly, there was a declaration from the foreign minister, they say advisor, is that Bangladesh has given in principle approval to the UN proposal for humanitarian corridor to Myanmar. Now, this humanitarian corridor worldwide is very controversial, and it is a bigger issue. Why all the people, there are a lot of countries share borders. There is a Chinese port in Myanmar. There is a Indian port in Myanmar in the adjoining to the area where they are trying to take the humanitarian aid, that is Rakhine. So India has a port, China has a port. So India, there are many things that why this corridor. But leave that aside. The interesting part of the story is that Bangladesh has given in principle approval, and then they are into denial mode. Last we heard is that army, and there was a meeting even today, and the army is clear that they are not going to support. They are not against the humanitarian corridor, but they want that let it be happen in exchange of the Rohingya refugees who came from Myanmar to Bangladesh. So let them go back and let the corridor, let the aids also go. And this corridor is important because it is known that the US and led West, particularly the US and UK at the forefront, they have serious interests in this area. And Hasina government in 2023, 23 or 24, after the election, came out openly saying that she did not say West, but she said that they wanted, some forces wanted the St. Martin Islands, which is adjacent to this area, the Myanmar, and they wanted to create, these forces wanted to create a Christian state combining parts of Myanmar and Bangladesh. So it had been a hot topic. And why Yunus government allowed this humanitarian corridor? Because people in Bangladesh, the analysts in Bangladesh say that it is to have a political clutch, the external support in exchange of something. And as things stand now, it has created huge furor in Bangladesh, huge. Excepting some parts of Islamists who are trying to fish in troubled water, like Jamaat-e-Islami and the NCP. Which, as I said, that if there is a fair election today, it will be it will be a question whether NCP will get one seat. So in that situation, except these two, the rest of the political class is against this, and they should be, because how can an interim government which is not elected can take such decisions? But they took. So Bangladesh is a banana republic, and then they themselves said that there was an in principle approval, and now they are saying, if today their national security advisor did a press conference and said that it doesn't exist. It's very evasive. And then we hear that the army has taken this decision that the corridor can operate only if Myanmar takes the Rohingyas, which is not going to happen. And on top of that, India, China, and Myanmar army are against this corridor. India has recently reopened or expanded the scope of the Kaladan project, connectivity project, connecting Situate to Mizoram to Northeast, and a huge budget was announced. And I assume the Indian presence in these areas adjacent to Bangladesh and Rakhine are going to increase steadfastly from here onwards. And that is required because Arakan also needs support, construction and activities, economic support. So if Indian construction takes place, there will be jobs and etc. So that is so this is a very going to be very hot situation. And finally, the where Bangladesh is heading, it is a very difficult situation to tell at this juncture. The last podcast that I did with a Bangladeshi expert, where my Bangladeshi guest is saying, and which is correct, that the students were demanding, they clearly identify that the army is, because the army chief is for inclusive election. When you say inclusive, it means taking all the parties. The Yunus government is yet to give any roadmap, firm roadmap for election. That has been the case. And the army chief has been insisting on election by February. So, latest by February. So all put together, but this NCP and the support base of the Yunus government, they don't want election. The Jamaat-e-Islami and this NCP, they don't want election. So all this put together, it was a very dicey situation. And so it is kind of the Yunus administration versus by striking out Army League, and on this corridor issue, the Yunus administration has come face to face with the army. Where Bangladesh will go from here, we don't know. But what we see, some very interesting developments that has taken place today. For the first time, see, India has been talking about an inclusive election and election. India wants early election. India say time and again that Delhi wants to deal with an elected government, and so India was a lone voice even after the actions against Army League. It was only India which issued a strong opinion. I did not hear anything from UK. US gave a very feeble response. But today, some Australian MPs, they wrote. They did not talk about Army League, but they said they asked the Yunus government to issue firm electoral roadmaps. That's probably the dice is somewhat turning. Whether it will turn and to what extent it will turn is to be seen. For the moment, I'm not trying to guess. It is difficult to kind of enter into hazardous zone of guessing the outcomes. Bangladesh is completely unpredictable country, and it has become more unpredictable over the last 9 months. So I'm not going to guess that, but it is definitely in a crux situation. And don't be surprised if things suddenly change. It can be many things. Suddenly the Yunus government come out with the electoral roadmap, or suddenly, something else can also happen. So this much at this moment. Thank you very much for watching Perspective. If you like this episode, please share with your friends. फिर मिलेंगे. Thank you.